By 1890, each European sovereignty was attacking and defending colonial trade routes and territories. Britain, France, and Russia, the latter having lost the alliance with Germany, became increasingly concerned about Germany's economic growth. Kaiser Wilhelm's provocative stance, his alliance with Austria, Hungary, and Italy, and his plan to build a railway to the Ottoman Empire. This was Germany's way of circumventing the British rule of the waves tradition, which had enabled her to annex territories all over the world, thereby gaining wealth, which included vast amounts of gold. Currencies were now being backed by gold reserves. The introduction of the combustion engine using oil, e.g. the motor car, spawned the navies to convert their vessels from coal to oil. The railway would provide access for Germany's industry to Mesopotamia's suspected oil fields and known extensive asphalt deposits, and potentially gain access to the Mediterranean and Indian Ocean, thereby challenging the British Empire at a global level. While the Muslim Ottomans would counter their Russian Orthodox rivals in the Balkans and around the Black Sea. Consequently, everyone was building up their navies, armies, and stockpiling armaments. By 1897, the Germans' regular army was 545,000 strong, with reservists of 3.4 million. The French had 3.4 million reservists, Austria 2.6 million, and Russia 4 million. Britain focused on building up her Royal Navy, already stronger than the next two navies combined. Military correspondents throughout Europe started to publish theories about an impending war larger than any previous wars. The three cities from which our grandparents emanate from, Lubeck, Danzig, and Konigsberg, are important southern Baltic Sea ports, traditionally part of the Hanseatic League, exchanging predominantly grain, salt, fish, and coal. Lubeck is easy enough to find on the map and known internationally for its marzipan. Lubeck is on the southwestern shores of the Baltic Sea, while Danzig and Konigsberg are on the southeastern shores of the Baltic Sea. But the latter two are no longer on today's maps. As it turns out, Langfur and Danzig were renamed Schleswig and Gdansk, respectively, in 1945 after the Second World War, when Poland was allocated that territory, while Kirschappen and Konigsberg were renamed Druzhba and Kaliningrad, respectively, in 1945, when that territory was taken by the Russians. Langfur, Danzig. The shipbuilding industry flourished in Danzig, over and above the city being an important trading administrative center under the control of the German state. The population of over 130,000 consisted of Germanic, up to 95% of the population, Slavic, including Kashubians, the earliest tribe in the area, Mennonites, Jews, and Scots, interacting predominantly in German. Our father Karl Albert Hermann Heinrich Wiederhold, known as Hein, was born an only child in 1906 in Landfuhr, Danzig. Both of Germanic heritage, Johannes Thomas Benjamin Wiederhold, our grandfather, died in the same year. 3 months later, 13th of June, at the age of 48. So Hein's mother, Johanna Maria Pallasch, aged 41, cared for Hein as a single parent with the help from her younger siblings. Louisanne, Heinrich George, Karl Conrad Max, and Helena Clara. Consequently, Hein grew up in close contact with his Pallasch cousins, Charlotte, Gertrude Erika, who was hard of hearing, Gerard, and in particular, Reinhold. There were no Wiederholds around. From Lubeck to South Africa. Hugo Brinckmann, our grandfather, was born 30th of November 1876 in Lubeck. Hugo's father died in 1882, and his mother died 5 years later, leaving him an orphan at the age of 11. At the age of 22, in 1898, Hugo pre-empted the anticipated war and joined millions of immigrants leaving Germany, from Hamburg to Southampton. From there, he followed his brother, Max, to Cape Town, South Africa, employed by Siemens in Johannesburg, the city of gold, an emerging mining town with an influx of first-generation British, Dutch, Flemish and German immigrants. He went back to England for a while until he received business proposals from his brother in 1902 and returned to South Africa in 1903. Alan Brinckmann's presentation of his family's history contains more information on Hugo's life and his family up to the 1930s, together with Eric and Nan's life, Alan's parents. Alan has also contributed to this transcript with ideas and editing. Hugo Brinckmann established the first delicatessen shop in the Palace buildings, corner Pritchard and Vissex Street, Johannesburg, called the Eiffel Tower of the Rand, and the centre of the shopping district. From Kirschappen, Konigsberg to South Africa. The Kirschappen Estate near Tierenberg in the district of Konigsberg, 100 kilometers from Danzig, across the Danzig Bay, is on a peninsula originally called Zamland, technically an island northwest of Konigsberg, and is bounded by the Coronian Lagoon, the Vistula Lagoon, the Pregel and the Daima rivers. Most of it is barely 20 meters above sea level. In the meantime, the East Prussians felt vulnerable, of which Konigsberg is central, bordering on Russia's Lithuania, where activists of all types were becoming violent. Jews were being expelled from major cities, including Kiev, and Germany and Russia no longer had a treaty. Immigration business had flourished in Kaunas and Vilnius, a few 100 kilometers from Konigsberg, promoting journeys to Americas, Australia, South Africa and Palestine. Together with the increasing ethnic purist attitude in Germany, it was time for Adolf Theodor at the age of 41, together with Kete, his wife, and 2 daughters, Theodora, our grandmother, and Dorothea, later known as Robin, aged 13 and 11, to preempt the foreseeable consequences. He sold the Kirschappen Estate in 20th of April 1901 to Hein Theodor, then via Berlin 30th of April, Hamburg and London 4th of September, left Southampton on 8th of October, arriving in Cape Town on the 29th of October on the Union Castle shipping line. In 1902 he travelled back to Germany, 15th of February, in order to buy cattle that he bought via Hamburg back to Cape Town on the 4th of May and Johannesburg on the 16th of May. His family followed in 1903 from Berlin, 20th of May, to London, 4th of July, and then to Durban, 4th of August. They farmed somewhere in Natal Midlands or Eastern Cape until his cattle died of foot and mouth disease, thereby losing his financial capital. The family moved to Johannesburg. This is where Hugo Brinckmann and Theodora Theodor met. Hugo Brinckmann, 31 years old, and Theodora, 20 years old, married on the 20th of December 1907. Our mother, Ingeborg Dorothea Brinckmann, known as Inga, who had an elder brother, Fritz Erich, were born 1912 and 1909 respectively in Johannesburg, South Africa, under the British flag. From the frying pan into successive fires. After years of conflict and unsuccessful negotiations with the Boers of Dutch origin, who were the first European settlers, the British decided to take control of the rest of southern Africa, not yet under their control, by force, with the help of Canadian and Australian forces. They also advanced on Germany's occupied Southwest Africa, now Namibia. What saved the Boers, certainly not by any European country other than Germany's tacit support, was that the Europeans were seriously outnumbered by the Africans, so extermination was not an option, but a scorched earth policy and depravity was. Even British observers such as Emily Hobhouse were horrified. The term concentration camp appeared. Over 100,000 mainly poor women and children, roughly a quarter of the population, and many more Africans were interned. Deaths from starvation, disease and exposure amounted to about 30,000 Boers and 20,000 Africans. The British had gained control of gold, 1/3 of the world's production, and diamond mining industry, and the British High Commissioner, Lord Alfred Milner, together with a previous proclamation, guided by Cecil Rhodes, introduced segregation, creating the seeds for apartheid. Thus the African and coloureds, who were made up of local mixed race and those imported from India and the Far East, in particular Chinese and Malaysians, in order to work in the mines and farming industries, were marginalised.